Greetings, YouTube, and this week will be Spider-Man, the first out of three of the Raimi trilogy, which means Tobey, with alongside Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson, James Franco as Harry Osborn, Rosemary Harris as Aunt May, the perfectly casted J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. I'll say perfectly cast. I mean, they even made him look comic accurate, except made his mustache a lot thicker so you don't look like Hitler. But so far, at least in the Raimi timeline, he looked comic accurate, unlike in that cameo in Far From Home where they turned him into Alex Jones. And of course, Cliff Robertson as Uncle Ben. Always kind of found it coincidental by how both in Maguire timeline and Garfield timeline, both actors that played Uncle Ben also have played John F. Kennedy. With Martin Sheen being doing a mini TV movie or mini series in the '80s, and which that's for another review, along with Robertson's P-2109, which was Kennedy's war years. Now back to Spider-Man with Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. Man, Willem Dafoe always made play a good villain. I mean, we hadn't had him as Joker yet, but still, Green Goblin was also close enough with it. Even if that suit looked Power Rangery and all, but hey, can't knock the Power Rangers and all. I mean, which is fitting for Spider-Man, which is technically the first teenage superhero, not counting sidekicks. That means you, Robin and Bucky, and of course, an excellent origin story and about how Spider-Man gets bit by a spider on a school field trip. Taking pictures for the yearbook. Then he gets one for the spider. Then he gets he first off tests out the powers to try to get money to buy a fashion car to woo Mary Jane in that movie, and oof, instead tries his hand at wrestling, gets skimped on it. But about that match of Bonesaw, it was coincidentally played by Macho Man Randy Savage, with Bruce Campbell, of course, as the ring announcer, which which is fitting for Raimi, because it ain't Raimi if Bruce Campbell ain't in it. Shame they didn't give him full on role some of the other ones. That's as a villain or something. That's for another review, of course. But that match, it'd been a lot funnier if old Macho Man played himself instead of Bonesaw, and even funnier if during that match the song by Village People was playing in the background. Because I mean, every time I mean, you know which one I'm talking about, Macho Man, man. I would say so far in a tie between Garfield, Maguire, and Holland, I'd say Maguire and Holland are tied when it comes to being the best Spider-Man. And an excellent storyline too of how Norman Osborn breaks bad and all, and the effects on that glider and all, which technically I called it a glider, which is really more of a jet board. Kind of surprised they didn't put no Beach Boys or Jan Dean in the soundtrack. I tell you what. And and of course, excellent cameo appearance by by Macy Gray, and I don't know how the storyline of how he goes, and the subplot of Peter's crush on Mary Jane, how he tries to be a, how how she was literally girl next door to how she's all becomes hot for Peter, but after going from Flash Thompson, which was played by Joe Manganiello, and also later on it was supposed to be Deathstroke in the DCU, but we all know how that's going. And of course, got to give an excellent cameo of Lucy Zena Lawless playing, the punk rock girl. Anybody who knows anything about Raimi knows when it comes to his films, he's got to have his people in there, which of course is Lucy, Ted Raimi, and Bruce Campbell. But that's an excellent one on. And quite frankly, the first thing I seen Bruce Campbell in was old Spider-Man. Watching it in the theater. And I still gotta say, excellent film, a 5 out of 5, and of course, one of the best live action superhero films ever. I mean, and back to that subplot and how the whole which was always kind of like an odd scenario, which was kind of odd given how somewhat odd because Harry knew that Peter liked MJ all them years, and yet he still had to make the move when he was even when they were living together in New York, and of course got that got the side appearances of Robbie Robertson, and who was always a pivotal part in the Spider-Verse, especially in the '90s animated series and all. Which out of the first one, what builds up, which I'm going to save a lot on the whole romance, the Spider-Man Mary Jane romance deal for whenever I get around to doing a video on Spider-Man 2 and 3. But still, excellent casting all around, and quite frankly, playing Mary Jane has been the best thing Kirsten Dunst has ever did. Like playing Spider-Man is the best thing Tobey's ever done. Which, in an over-the-top masterpiece such as this, I mean, old Spidey gets a 5 out of 5. Enjoy, people.